Welcome, seekers of the shadows, to the Nightmare Haunting Hour. Each week, we delve into the darkest corners of existence. We unearth tales that claw at the edges of reality. Prepare yourselves for a journey into the abyss. Tonight, we explore a place where time twists and terror resides, a place known only by its number. This is the story of Room 303. Our tale begins with a man named Jake Morgan. He was a traveling salesman, a man accustomed to the lonely highways and anonymous motel rooms. His life was a series of fleeting towns and forgotten faces. Jake was driving back from Detroit. It had been a long, grueling trip. He was tired, eager to be home. He decided to take a shortcut, a route through the winding back roads of Pennsylvania. It was a decision born of weariness, a simple desire to shave off a few miles, a decision that would lead him into the heart of a nightmare. The sky, clear moments before, turned a bruised, angry purple. A sudden, violent snowstorm descended. The road vanished under a white, swirling curtain. Visibility dropped to zero. Stranded, with the snow piling up rapidly, Jake needed shelter. He needed it desperately. Through the blinding blizzard, he saw a faint light. It was a building hunched against the storm. An old sign, barely visible, read, "The Blackwood Inn." It looked less like an inn and more like a forgotten relic. He pulled into the small, snow-covered parking lot. The building was small, dusty, and seemed to sag under the weight of years and neglect. It felt less like a refuge and more like a place time had forgotten. He pushed open the heavy, creaking door. A bell above the door jingled mournfully. The air inside was cold and stale, smelling of dust and something else, something faintly unpleasant. Behind a worn counter sat a man. He was gruff, with eyes that seemed to hold a deep, weary knowledge. He didn't smile. He simply stared. Jake asked for a room. The receptionist consulted a large, leather-bound ledger. His finger traced down the page slowly. He looked up, his expression unreadable. "Only one left," he rasped. "Room 303. There was a pause, a heavy silence that hung in the air. The receptionist's eyes seemed to bore into Jake. "It's got a history," he said, his voice low. "A dark one. Some folks say things happen in there, things that can't be explained." He didn't elaborate, just pushed the registration card forward. Jake, exhausted and cold, dismissed it as old man's tales. He just needed a warm bed. He signed the card, took the heavy, old-fashioned key, and headed towards the stairs. The air grew colder as he ascended. Night fell quickly over the Blackwood Inn. In room 303, the silence was thick, broken only by the howling wind outside and the unsettling creaks of the old building. Jake tried to relax, but an unease settled over him. The sound seemed to come from within the room itself. Soft creaks on the floorboards when he was standing still, whispers that the wind couldn't possibly carry. A growing sense of presence began to weigh on him. It felt as though he wasn't alone, as if something else occupied the space with him, just beyond his sight. He stood by the dresser, catching his reflection in the old wavy mirror. He saw himself, tired and drawn. Then his blood ran cold. For a split second, he saw it. A reflection of himself standing directly behind him. It wasn't his own reflection, it was a separate entity mimicking his form. He spun around, but there was nothing there. His heart hammered against his ribs. He tried to rationalize it, blaming fatigue, the strange old inn, the storm. But the feeling of being watched intensified. His eyes scanned the room, searching for anything out of the ordinary. On a small, dusty table, he found an old photograph. It was tucked away, almost hidden. He picked it up, his fingers trembling slightly. The photograph was faded, yellowed with age. It depicted a man standing in this very room. The man in the photograph was looking directly at the camera, and he looked exactly like Jake. The same build, the same features, even the same tired expression in his eyes. It was uncanny, impossible. A chill deeper than the room's cold air settled over him. He remembered the receptionist's words. A dark history. He looked around the room again, seeing it now through a lens of dread. He searched the room frantically, his earlier weariness forgotten. He found old newspapers tucked into the back of a drawer. They spoke of disappearances. 12 men over the course of a century had vanished from room 303, vanished without a trace. The articles were old, sensationalized, but the pattern was undeniable. And then he saw the chilling detail, repeated in multiple accounts. Each of the vanished men had been described in a similar way. They all bore a striking resemblance to each other, and to Jake. The room wasn't just old, it was a trap, and he had walked right into it. Panic seized Jake. He had to get out. He rushed to the door, fumbling with the heavy key. He turned the lock, twisted the doorknob. It didn't budge. He pushed, he pulled, he rattled the handle. The door was locked tight, as if bolted from the other side. He was trapped. He grabbed his phone, desperate to call for help. He powered it on, watching the screen light up. No signal. Nothing. The storm, the remote location, or something else entirely had cut him off. His eyes darted around the room, searching for another way out. The window. It was his only hope. He ran to it, his mind racing. He grabbed a heavy lamp from the bedside table. With a surge of adrenaline, he swung it, smashing the glass. Shards flew inwards. He peered through the broken pane, ready to climb out, storm or no storm. But there was no outside, just solid brick. The window opened onto a wall. Despair washed over him, cold and absolute. The room seemed to press in on him. The air grew heavy, thick with a palpable malevolence. The lights in the room began to flicker erratically. The temperature plummeted, the cold no longer just from the storm outside, but emanating from the very walls. He heard it then. A sound that wasn't the wind, wasn't the creaking building. A low, chilling whisper, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You took my room." The voice was dry, ancient, filled with an infinite, patient malice. It was the voice of the presence he had felt. He stumbled back, his eyes wide with terror. He looked at the photograph again, the one he had found earlier, the one showing the man who looked like him. The photograph had changed. The man who resembled him was gone. Now the picture showed only Jake, standing alone in room 303, his face a mask of horror. He was the new occupant of the frame. Morning arrived, not with sunlight, but with a dull, gray light filtering through the boarded-up window. The storm had passed. The silence in room 303 was absolute, save for the frantic pounding of Jake's heart. A sharp rap echoed from the door. The receptionist. "Check out time," the gruff voice called. Silence from within. Another knock, louder this time. "Sir, you all right in there?" The receptionist used his master key. The heavy door swung inward easily, as if it had never been locked. He stepped inside, his eyes scanning the small, dusty room. It was empty. The bed was neatly made, undisturbed. There was no sign of Jake Morgan, no sign of struggle, no broken glass from the window. Everything was exactly as it should be. Except for one thing. On the center of the neatly made bed lay a single folded piece of paper. The receptionist walked over and picked it up. He unfolded the note. The words were written in a spidery, old-fashioned hand. He read them aloud, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Room 303 is always ready for the next one." He crumpled the note and tossed it into a wastebasket. He turned and left the room, pulling the door shut behind him. The cycle was complete. Downstairs, the front door opened. A new traveler, seeking refuge after the storm, stepped inside. He was a traveling salesman, tired from the road. He walked up to the counter. He bore a striking resemblance to the man who had checked in the night before. The receptionist looked at him, his eyes holding that same weary, knowing look. "Welcome to the Blackwood Inn," he said. "We have one room left, room 303. The terror of room 303 lingers, a place where identities are stolen and lives are consumed, a perpetual trap waiting for the next face that fits the pattern. What are your thoughts on Jake's fate? Have you ever felt a presence in an old building? Share your reactions and your own chilling experiences in the comments below. If this story sent a shiver down your spine, please give this video a like. It helps us bring more tales from the darkness to you. And don't forget to subscribe to Nightmare Haunting Hour. We have a new terrifying story waiting for you every week. Until then, sleep tight, if you can.